Hi there. So we understood how exactly to calculate the value of options using the binomial model, and at the very same time we also used the put call parity in order to calculate the value of call option, given that we were having the value of put option, or for that matter to calculate the value of put option given that we were having the value of call option. Now what we are going to do is we are going to understand one more model based on which we can calculate the value of the call and put option here again. Again, the model that we are going to discuss is only applicable for European options only. Alright. However, this particular model helps to, tackle some of the drawbacks which a binomial model had. So say for example, in binomial model, the time period that we had was discrete. But in BSM model, the time period that we're going to have is going to be continuous. Alright, so whenever we use discrete time period, we discount things using 1 plus RF. Alright, but whenever we use continuous time period, how we discount things is using e to the power minus RF into t. Alright, so this is how we discount. So in BSM model, exactly we are going to do that. We'll be discounting things using the using e to the power minus RF into t. Alright, so this is exactly how it works. In the binomial model, at the end, we saw that how can you really create a hedge portfolio. You can, when things, say for example, when call options were overvalued, so what you did was you sold some options and at the very same time you bought some stocks. Alright, so that was a hedge portfolio. Why do we call it a hedge portfolio? Because at time period 1, irrespective of whatever the stock price was, we could see the portfolio value to be exactly the same. Alright, I think it was approximately 1286 if I am able to recall it correctly. So we had that hedge portfolio and we knew that it is completely riskless. Why it was riskless? Because irrespective of the moment of the stock price, we knew that the portfolio value is going to come the same. Alright, so that was one thing. And however, in the binomial model, we were looking at things. If we were standing here today, we were looking at things over the next period only. Alright, so that was something that was very important, and we were discounting using 1 plus RF. However, in the BSM model, how we are going to work is we are going to create the very same hedge portfolio that is going to be riskless, but here we are not talking about discrete time periods. We are going to assume that the hedge portfolio is going to be riskless throughout the time period at each and every interval. Or it could be for a millisecond, could be for a minute, could be for 10 minutes. So at each and every point, we are going to assume that the BSM model is going to be risk-free. So if I am standing today at time period 0, I am going to assume that at the very next moment, the portfolio is going to be riskless. The hedge portfolio which I have created, say for example, using options and stock, is going to be completely riskless. So that is one assumption that we have in our BSM model. Apart from that, we also have lot many assumptions. Say for example, we assume that the markets are frictionless. At the very same time, we assume that we are able to lend and borrow how much ever we want at the risk-free rate. We assume that the volatility is constant and finite. At the very same time, the risk-free is constant and finite. So there are certain assumptions that you need to read through for the BSM model so that you get a good hold of it. However, we are going to understand the BSM model directly and see how to exactly value the call option and the put option using the BSM model. So when you start with the BSM model and you try to value the call option, so the formula goes like this: S into ND1 minus e to the power minus RT x into ND2. Now this x is nothing but the exercise price of the call option. Alright, this x that we have here is nothing but the exercise price of the call option. So what exactly it means is it basically relates to the exercise value of a call option. Alright, if you all can recall, the exercise value of a call option is nothing but the stock price minus the exercise price. Alright, so somewhere this formula that we have is related to it. And how you really think of knowing the value of something, what you do is you basically try and see what value it is going to generate in the future, and you try to discount it back. Say for example, if you're talking about any project as well, so in those cases as well, what you do is you try to figure out what cash flows that project might generate in the future, and you try to discount it back. So in the very same way, exercise value is something that we can expect the call option to generate for us at time period t, and what you are trying to do here is you are trying to discount that value to time period 0 in order to get the value of the call option. Alright, in order to get the value of the call option. So this is exactly how things work out, and you need to understand this point. Alright, so what we are going to do is we are going to figure out how the exercise value is this and how we are discounting things back. So for that, we can start with this particular bit. So S naught into E to the power RT into ND1 minus X into ND2. Now what exactly this means is, for knowing the value of the call option, you're taking the current stock price, you are taking it forward till time period T by multiplying it with E to the power RT. Alright, that is how you take things forward. You're multiplying it by ND1. Now what this ND1 is basically, it basically means that how much long position you will be able to take in the stocks. Alright, how many stocks you need to take basically, or what kind of long position you will be able to take in the stocks is what ND1 is here. Alright, minus X ND2. Alright, minus X ND2 is basically the amount that you'll be requiring at time period T. Alright, since you have taken a long position in the stock, so you will not be paying money out of your own pocket since it is in hedge portfolio. So what kind of money you'll be requiring at time period T is something that you have figured it out here. Alright, so we are trying to, now since we are trying to figure out the value of the call option at time period 0, what we'll do is we'll discount these numbers which we are talking about at time period T. Alright, how do you discount it? You are simply applying the PV formula behind the bracket. So how do you really figure out the present value for continuous time distribution? You basically take e to the power minus RT. Alright, so you will multiply e to the power minus RT into S naught into e to the power into e to the power RT into ND1 minus X into ND2. Alright, so when you apply this to this bit and to this bit, what happens here is e to the power minus RT and e to the power RT gets cancelled. Alright, because here we have the power in negative terms and here we have the power in positive terms. So that gets cancelled out. And here what do we have? Here we have X into e to the power minus RT into ND2. Alright, please make sure that you are making notes along with what I am saying, because this could become a little tricky. So again, this bit e to the power RT and e to the power minus RT gets cancelled out. And in this bit, X into ND2 into e to the power minus RT is something that we'll have here. Alright, and that is how, once you do that, you'll arrive at this particular formula of ours. So basically this ND1 that we have, or this ND2 that we have, tells us what kind of positions or how much long positions you need to take in stocks, and at the very same time ND2 tells you what kind of short positions you need to take in bonds. Alright, so basically the whole idea is to go long in stocks, you need to have some money. And how do you really get that money? You borrow it. And since you're borrowing money, you are doing what? You're going shorts, you are taking a short position in bonds. So that is exactly the meaning of how this formula really works. Alright, so once you apply this, you arrive at this number, and this number is nothing, S into ND1, that is the value of stock, how many stocks you are buying, less this is the total borrowed amount as of today. Alright, this is the total borrowed amount as of today that you need to have in order to make sure that you are buying these many stocks. Alright, and the difference of that will give you the value of the call option. That is the basic idea. Alright, we'll understand what exactly ND1 and ND2 are, but for now what you need to understand is that ND1 is nothing but the number of stocks that you need to buy to calculate the value of the call option, and ND2 is nothing but the value is the number of bonds that you need to short, or it gives you the number of bonds that that you really need to use to borrow the money in order to make sure that you are able to buy the stocks that we were talking here. Alright, so that was one thing. ND1, again, let's come to that. So ND1 is nothing but a cumulative standard normal probability. Alright, ND1 is nothing but, or else we can, for simplicity we can use NX. NX is nothing but cumulative standard normal probability. So X here is, say for example, could be any value. If we take the value of X to be, I have taken an example for you. Say for example, if X is minus 1.645. Alright, so you put that X here. Alright, you put that X here. So the value would be N bracket minus 1.645. And once you have this, what you need to do is you need to figure out the cumulative standard normal probability, which you can use, for which you can use a normal distribution. In normal distribution, you know that this is the symmetry point, and before this line, behind this line, you have 50% distribution, and after this line you have another 50% distribution. So at minus 1.645, which is the value of X, or which is the value inside the bracket, you will get the standard normal distribution to be at 5%. Alright, you will get the value here as 5%. So that is a probability. Alright, so that is the probability. So the weights or the number of stocks that we plan to buy depends on what? Depends upon a probability, which is nothing but a standard normal cumulative probability from here. Alright, as we have studied this in Z distribution. Now what we need to understand is, okay, we figured out that nx is nothing but a cumulative standard normal probability. But say for example, we have been using ND1. Now how do we exactly calculate this ND1? Because to have the probability, we need to have the value of x. Alright, so in the very same way, if we do not know D1, we cannot know ND1. So we are trying to figure out ND1, and to figure that out, we are trying to figure out D1. So D1 is nothing but, simple formula, not that simple, but yes, ln into S upon X, alright, S being the current stock price, X being the exercise price, and once we divide this, the log of that is the first term that we have here, plus R is the risk-free rate, plus the volatility, square of that, divided by 2 into T, divided by sigma root T. Alright, a very interesting thing that you need to notice here is that if you look out for the relationship between these variables and the value of call option, you will see that most of the relationships which we have studied in level 1 follow here. Not most of them, all of them rather. Say for example, S is nothing but the stock price. So see, if stock price increases, this entire term increases, which indeed increases D1, and once D1 increases, this part increases, ND1 would increase, and once ND1 would increase, the value of the call option would increase. In the similar way, if you look at volatility, if volatility increases, this entire term increases, and once this entire term increases, you will see D1 increasing, and once D1 is increasing, you will see the value of the call option increasing. Alright, so that is how it works around, and it has an inverse relationship with the exercise price. So once you see the exercise price increasing, you'll see this decreasing, and once this decreases, and this decreases, and the call option value also decreases. So all the relationships which we know between the multiple variables and the call option value would stick here. Alright, so that is something that you need to understand, that the D1 that we were using so far to figure out how many long positions that we need to take in stocks is given by this particular formula that we have. You basically need to relate this with what we did in the case of binomial model, where we were figuring out the arbitrage profit. Alright, even there you took the very same thing. You went, while you saw that the call option was overvalued, in that case you took some long positions in the asset class, and then you borrowed that money, you borrowed the money to make sure that you are able to go long in the asset class. So in the very similar way, the value is getting calculated here as well. Alright, so once we know D1, calculating D2 is pretty simple. Alright, D2 is nothing but D1 minus sigma root T. Alright, so that is pretty simple. And one more thing that we need to know is n of minus x is nothing but 1 minus nx. Alright, so say for example, here in this case, if we had x as minus 1.645. Alright, so P of minus 1.645 was nothing but 5%. Alright, so here what we need to understand is, if this is 5%, the other part would be how much? Would be 95%. Alright, that is what this particular line is telling us. Alright, so that is pretty simple. Say for example, what you need to do is, if we want to figure out n of 1.645, alright, that would be nothing but 1 minus n of minus 1.645. Why have I taken x is equal to minus 1.645? Because that is what we had taken in this example, and here minus x would be minus of 1.645, and that is why I have taken a positive number. And if you try and figure out this number, it would be nothing but 95%. Alright, from your Z distribution as well, or from your normal distribution as well. Alright, so this is something that you need to understand. Secondly, the way we discuss the value of a call option, in the very same way, what you can do is you can figure out the value of the put option. The value of the put option, works in an exact reverse way. So what you need to do is you need to take short positions in stocks. Alright, you need to take short positions in stock. Alright, the idea is pretty simple. How do you make money here in call options? You make money here when the stock prices go up. Alright, so you need to have that long position in those stocks. And where do you get the money to go long in stocks? You borrow it. Alright, in put option, how do you make money when things go down, when stocks go down? So you need to have that short position to have that option open for yourself. Alright, so put option makes money when things go down, when stocks go down. So you need to have a short position in the stocks to make sure that you have a certain exposure which will ensure that if things go down, you'll make money, and that is why you're taking that short position in stocks. Now, how much short position do you need to take would be given to us by what? By n into minus d1, and that is what this function is doing here. That we know that put options we make money when things go down, and we need to have certain exposure which will ensure that once things go down, we'll be making money. And to do that, we are taking short positions, and how much short positions do we need to take is given to us by what? By n into minus d1. Alright, so once we know that, we make the short positions, we get money, and since we are getting money, what do we do with that? We invest it. Where do we invest it? We invest it in the risk-free asset class on a continuous time period basis. Alright, so that is what you are doing here. You are taking a long position in bonds. How many bonds do you need to take? Again, that would be given to you by what? By n into n of minus d2, not n into minus d2, but n of minus d2. Alright, and this is nothing but the present value of the same. Alright, so the idea is pretty simple. You need to know the payoffs that you're looking out for. Either you're discussing the call or the put option, and then you can figure out things easily. So what I'll do here now is I'll try and inculcate one formula, one example, so that we can discuss the two formulas again. And once you are in a habit of using these two formulas, it will not be really a difficult task to get hold of it. So I know it was a tricky session. It was a little on the tougher side, but I would want you to watch it once more so that you get a good grip on it. Thank you.